Hello from Austin, Texas. My name is Max Borders, and I'm the author of Superwealth, Why We Should Stop Worrying About the Gap Between Rich and Poor. You're watching the Superwealth Interviews, book promotion wrapped in interesting conversation and grainy Skype video. Today we have Nick Schulz. Nick is editor of The American Magazine and my former boss and an old friend. He's also author with Arnold Kling of the woefully underread book From Poverty to Prosperity, Intangible Assets, Hidden Liabilities, and the Lasting Triumph Over Scarcity. Welcome, Nick. I'm really delighted to have you here.
Max, it's great to be here.
Now, knowing you for as long as I have, I can say you're among a handful of people who understand that when it comes to moving people from poverty to prosperity, it's the institution, stupid. Why do you think we should worry more about social operating systems and less about, say, macroeconomics?
It's a great question. The reason to worry more about social operating systems is that if we actually care about the well-being of people, and especially the poor, we have to understand the process by which poor societies become rich. And quite frankly, macroeconomics doesn't really help very much with that. I'm not going to say that I reject all macro, but if macro is useful, it's useful as Keynes was thinking of in the short run. So you might say that, well, we can tweak some things here and there. We can do some things with fiscal policy, monetary policy. That might make some differences at the margins. And certainly if there's an economic crisis going on, that can be relevant, although I think the last few years show that I don't think macroeconomists, for the most part, really have a clue what they're doing. But when we're really talking about huge differences between rich and poor, or when we look at really successful, wealthy societies and compare them to poor societies, what we're talking about doesn't really have much to do with macroeconomics at all. It has everything to do with institutions. It has to do with things like the rule of law. It has to do with the free markets. It has to do with entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial creation and entrepreneurial wealth creation and what the institutional mix is that permits those things to happen. So if we genuinely care about the poor, which I do, and I know you do, then we should really be focusing our efforts on talking about institutions, because it is the institution, stupid.
Well, and you know, in my book Superwealth, really one of the things I argue is that people ought to be more concerned about what the poor lack than worried about what the rich have. Now, that doesn't speak to the question of institutions, but I certainly think it reframes the issue so that we focus our energies on the correct means of lifting the poor out of poverty and from an institutional sense. So let's assume that you agree with that to some extent, that you agree with me that we should focus on what the poor lack. And having read your book, I certainly think that you do.